while since I've posted, hasn't it? If you're still there, thank you for staying there and sticking with me. I guarantee you that I will keep doing this and I will keep sharing. But I'm still kind of working out my system. So again, thank you for tuning in. I know what I want to share today will be sure to inspire. I was going through some of my recordings and trying to figure out which one would be good to share. And I found one from November of this past year that I think will be good for this time. In it, I talk about kind of clearing our life of distractions, showing up, being present, being aware of what's happening in the moment. I suppose that's the same thing as being present. And yeah, I talk about other things too, alignment, and well, you'll hear it. You'll hear it soon enough. It is Friday, May the 2nd, 2025. And we are in a time, an interesting time, where not only has there recently been a U.S. election, there has also been a Canadian election. And there seems to be a lot of instability all around, a lot of chaos. And I've been observing things, I've been hearing things. In one podcast I like to listen to, they refer to the same thing as well, where things are just happening really fast, almost at an accelerating rate. It's chaotic. There's a lot going on. And if we're not careful and mindful, and how do I put this? Keep ourselves grounded and centered in whatever way that may be, it can be so easy to get thrown off. In a day, even. Kind of like, I'm just thinking of this now, kind of like riding a bike. And all of a sudden it's getting really, really windy. And if you don't mind yourself and be super aware of what's going on, you're going to get blown over really quick, really easily. And you may need to even lean into the wind a little bit in order to keep things balanced. I like that. Just came up with that. I'm sure that's not a new thought, but it is relevant to what I want to share regarding the episode I recorded back in November. Just about being able to keep balance in our life. It's kind of too like those inflatable battle sort of games where each of you has those poles with the things on the end, and you're standing on a little pedestal, each of you, and you got to knock each other off the pedestal, and then you're trying to keep your balance while you're also swinging this thing around and compensating and keeping your balance. And life kind of feels a lot like that these days, where things are just coming from all these different directions, and it's like a special challenge, perhaps, that we've all been given. And this is how I like to see it, where it'll be really clear where we are in life, and how stable we are and how grounded we are when all this stuff is happening, because how quickly we get thrown off that thing we're standing on well, that'll be an indication right there. And whether it's family, whether it's what's happening in the country, whether it's things related to our health, our workplace, our relationships, our mental health, our emotional health, even our spiritual health. It's like we are being put into the gauntlet. Is that the right word? This is big, guys, and again, there are different ways we can see this. We can see this as something to be afraid of, to get stressed about or anxious about. And sure, that may happen for a time or for a moment. But the way I like to see things is that these are opportunities, these are challenges, these are indicators, signals. These are the means by which we can really see where we're at. Just like in a battle, you are going to have everything in you put to the test, physically, mentally, emotionally. And whether or not you make it through that battle and keep standing in the end, well, that'll depend on how you do and what sort of resolve you have and how much resilience you've developed, and essentially how grounded you are and what you are grounded in. And that's the thing too. If we base our lives on something that can just be pulled out from underneath us, how quickly we can fall. But if we base our lives on something that is unmovable, that has stood the test of time for ages, that has proven itself over and over again, then no matter what pushes against us, we will keep standing and we will make it through. And I'm going a little beyond what I shared in this episode, but I would say it's still relevant anyways. And this is kind of the spirit I want to take it in as you listen to it. That when you consider everything that's happening in the world today, and all the thoughts can come, and all the feelings can come, and all the questions and all the uncertainties can come, just remember that in any given moment, you can shut all that out and come to a place of peace and balance on the inside. If you have to close your eyes to do it, please don't do it while you're driving. Then close your eyes. Shut out all the distractions, all the noise, all the interference, all the things essentially trying to conflict with or jam or disrupt your signal. The signal which is constantly sending. The signal which, once received, brings with it a sense of profound peace and joy, balance, wonder, love, gratitude. I mean, when I take a super high perspective of everything, that's all I really see. a bunch of noise, a bunch of distractions, all set to disrupt communications, all set to disrupt our connection to the one true source of all life, of all goodness, of everything. To add layer upon layer upon layer, which eventually obstructs our view, clouds our perspective, clouds our vision, makes it difficult to see, like being in a fog, or like being in the dark. It's as though we are surrounded by light, but we have been covered by layer and layer and layer of obstacles and objects. Picture it how you will. If it's like being in a room, which is then enclosed in another room, which is enclosed in another room, and enclosed in another room, all in this building, keeping us from seeing the light, remembering that it is light all the time. And then all of these things become our new reality, which is sad, which is tragic, but it is possible to break out of that. I didn't really think I would be going here in my introduction, but I guess I am. And I'm saying these things because, for one, I know I would want to hear someone say these things to me going through the times that we're going through right now. And maybe hearing from someone who has experienced the ability to have peace in times like this, or to have any sense of clarity or perspective in these tough times. Someone who could be like a tree, a strong tree, and even though the winds blow against that tree as hard as they can, they do not blow that tree down. And of course, the ability that I have to be that way, that comes from beyond me. But that power is alive and working inside of me. And I'm so grateful to have that in my life. And I want you to have that too, if you don't already. And that's how I like to see it too. That connection, that line, it's always there. It's just that so many things jam the signal or disrupt it or confuse it or scramble it. But it's there. And we all know how to tune into that. It's been written into our very DNA. It's been there, I would add, from before we were even born on this earth. That's how we know it. That's how we can remember it. And it is my hope that as you listen to this episode, that it inspires something in you where you just feel this burning sensation on the inside. Where you feel this burning sensation on the inside to just stop Block out all the distractions. Calm those thoughts and those emotions and just be still. Be still and know. And if it takes being outside, being in a forest, going for a walk, being in a quiet room, whatever it takes, even just for a few minutes, just allowing yourself to be in that sort of space is already going to help. And it may feel weird or uncomfortable at first, but it doesn't have to stay that way. I remember the verse, as we draw near to God, God will draw near to us. I like to think that it is simultaneous. I think that's the word I'm thinking of. Where, like this room I'm in, if I draw near to the door, then effectively the door is also drawing near to me. But it's me walking toward the door. The door isn't walking toward me. But in my example here, the door is just an object. God is so much more than that. God is a presence. God is a being. God is an energy. God is spirit. God is on the inside of every one of us. And I feel like as we especially on the inside, take that journey, walk that path toward God, God isn't just going to stay standing there. God's going to come running to us. And then we will remember that this is how it was meant to be. This is indeed how it was before. We just forgot. And it is this sensation that I experience every time I have these moments that I describe in this episode. Whether I'm in prayer, whether I'm singing, playing my guitar, going for a walk in the forest, and I have a profound moment where I sense a presence, where I sense a deep knowing, a deep connection, something transcendent, something wonderful, something that stirs something so deep on the inside of me, in my very essence, my very being of who I am. This is what I'm talking about. And it is these moments where I have that sensation of, this is familiar. Wait, I remember this. I like this. This is how it's meant to be. I know maybe it's an overused example, but like the fish in water. You take that fish out of water and it is not in a good place. The moment you put it back in, it's good. It's right where it was designed to be. And I know I've heard this spoken by others, but it's a good reminder. We were designed to be in the presence of God, in the presence of our Creator, in the presence of the one true source of all things, in the presence of love, the embodiment of love, the fullness of love, in the embodiment of joy and peace and good things. We were created in that environment. And every time we connect with that, we remember that was something that we knew all the time. And for many different reasons and theories that we don't have to go into here, all of that has been obscured. And we've forgotten. But my prayer for you, as it is for me every single day, is that in some special way, every day, we remember. We take the time to remember. That we allow God to remind us as we go about our day, as we go for a walk in nature, as we read a book, as we listen to music, as we talk with a friend, or a loved one, a family member. That some sort of divine moment, connection happens, some sort of inspiration is experienced to help us remember who we are. And where we function best. Where we thrive. I've heard this said too, where we can do more than just survive. We can thrive in this life. So that is my prayer for you as you listen to this episode and as you consider, hopefully not for too long, all the things that are happening in the world today and all of the possible outcomes, such as more fear, more worry, more stress, more anxiety, more uncertainty, more instability, or whether you look at things and say to yourself, okay, those things can exist, but I'm not going to allow that fear and that anxiety and that instability and that uncertainty. Well, it's okay to be uncertain. Well, I'll take that one out of there. But to be in fear, to be stressed out, to be anxious, no, I'm not going to let that happen. We can walk in this world that may be dark with a light that surrounds us like a shield, bouncing off, deflecting all of the arrows and all of the weapons and everything that would try to take us down. I know I've been hearing these themes too. Well, the battle's already been won. Okay, then why are we still struggling in so many ways? Why do we still struggle with doubt? Why do we still struggle with fear? Why do we still struggle on a daily basis to forgive, to let go of things, to surrender our will? There is still a battle. And it is my belief that this battle exists in our minds. Our spirit, our soul. I'm still learning which is which and how this all works, but that core part of our being, it's good. It knows how things really are. It sees things for what they really are. But our mind is not that way. And so every day we need to really be mindful of the thoughts that run through our mind and the emotions that we're feeling and the labels and the reasons and the whys that we're attaching to those things. And just learn to let go of that. To not attach to that. Because it's those attachments to the reasons and the whys that can cause so much fear and worry and stress and confusion, misunderstanding, misperceptions. Okay, I better stop now. But I hope this helped. I hope this encouraged you in some way and inspired you. And I know at the very least that if I listen to this again sometime in the future, it will certainly help me remember these things. Because it's good to remember these things. That's honestly been one of the biggest things for me lately, is the whole idea of remembering. Every day, we got to remember, every single day. It's almost as though we fall asleep at night and we wake up in the morning and everything that happened before is just clouded, obscured. And we need to remind ourselves again and again and again, because those thoughts keep coming again and again and again. And then they stir up feelings, and then we give reasons to these feelings, and then we go down that path. So I found it very meaningful and purposeful these days to start off my day remembering, reminding myself of some key things to help start off the day. And it can be as simple as remembering to be grateful, expressing gratitude for something. Thank you for this day. Thank you for life. Thank you for breath. Thank you that I am still here, because that must mean that there is something for me today. There is meaning to my life today. That's why I'm still here. Thank you. So I'll wrap up my introduction there. And I do have some exciting news that I will share sooner or later when the time is right. But for now, thank you for listening. And as always, live inspired. Time for the evening reflection with Ray Inspired. So, well, let's start with the time. It is 10:19 p.m. on Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024. I just got, well, let's rewind a little bit. I was working, doing a photo shoot. It took me a little longer into the evening than I thought it might. And I was scheduled to join a rehearsal with the church for Sunday's music. And I ended up being a little late to that. And I let them know I was going to be late. But it was interesting. When I came in to that place, and they were all singing and playing and everything already, it felt kind of awkward, but I managed to sneak into the choir and start singing. There was a presence, an undeniable presence that I felt. But it took me a moment, if I'm being honest. At first, how do I say this? At first, I'm talking about where I was looking, my perspective, what I saw. What I was seeing was a bunch of people moving around and singing and playing, and I saw that external side of things first. Then, as time went on, I shifted into a place where I had a more, accurate perspective of what was going on. Where now, instead of seeing people in forums, I suppose, moving around, singing, playing their instruments, seeing these external things, I started to see beyond that, into the presence of what was going on, into the energy, into the goodness, into the spirit of everything, the spirit, and to feel that and to connect with that. But I didn't at first, and that's okay. I want to put that in there as well. Because maybe you go to these places and you see these people singing songs to God and songs to Jesus, and you're kind of like, okay, cool, and you don't really feel anything, and it doesn't really do anything for you. Maybe you look at everyone and you think they're kind of weird and they're kind of odd, and you're like, cool, I can appreciate that they're being authentic and they're being, genuine with what they're doing, but I'm just not really feeling it. But then you give it some time. Maybe you come back to it repeatedly through the course of life experiences, life awarenesses and revelations and new understandings and insights. You come back to it, and you come back to it, and you come back to it. And all of a sudden it starts to take on a new life of its own. And you start to see beyond the surface to what is actually going on. That is what I'm talking about right now. That is what I felt. And in a very, very real way, it's mirrored in those moments when you don't really want to look around you anymore. You just want to close your eyes and really tune in to that presence for yourself. You don't want to just watch everybody else around you have their experience with that. You want to experience it for yourself. And for someone like me who has had that experience before, I know I can experience it for myself. And so I close my eyes to that which may distract or detract from my own authentic experience with God. And I did that this evening. And it felt really good to do that. It felt really good to get to that place where I did that. Because I gotta admit, I felt a little weird at first. Felt a little off, a little odd. Almost one of those feelings like, what am I doing here? I am totally not where they're at right now. I can see they're, having a good time, and they're really engaged, and they're really feeling this presence of God. But I'm not. But I know I can. But I feel kind of late to the experience. Late to the experience. That's a good title. How many of us have ever felt late in life? Showing up late, coming up with the idea late, pursuing something or someone late. And to feel those feelings, we usually feel in those moments. Only then later, when you look back, you have those insights of, well, actually, no. I came right on time. And maybe it was late, but I came right when I needed to. When the time was right. Because even though I came late today, I had an experience that I likely wouldn't have had if I came on time. Which led to this recording. Which led to me sharing these ideas, which will lead to someone listening to it and maybe having their own inspiration from it. So, yes, there can be purpose in anything. Even in being late. Even if it's a reminder of what it's like to be on time. For next time. If there even is time. Anyways. There was that. And then afterward, a few of us guys decided to hang out together. So we hopped in one of our cars. It was a nice car. BMW. Fast. We had a good drive to a burger joint nearby. Had some really good burgers. Had a really good conversation where we all left feeling inspired. Which, of course, I really enjoy. I really enjoy those moments. And it's humbling, really, for me. And sure, I could say I take pride or I boast in being part of inspiring or inspirational conversations and maybe being a part of that inspiration. I take more pride in watching God work through each of those of us who were in that conversation to say whatever we said that was on our hearts to say, and how that inspired each of us in a unique way, which is literally God working through each of us to give words and share words that were meaningful for each of us, where I said words that inspired them, they said words that inspired me. It was an exchange, an act of sharing and of serving one another. I love that. Especially in groups of men. We need to do that more. That is happening more, which is also inspiring and wonderful, powerful. But one of the main things we talked about this whole evening, which spanned about 2 hours, is the importance of keeping God first. Which essentially means not putting ourselves first and not putting others in our lives first, including our romantic interests or our romantic partners. We don't put them first, and we don't put ourselves first. We put God first. That puts everything into perspective, into alignment, if you will. If we put ourselves first or others first, everything goes to hell. I was going to say something else, but I'm trying to keep this a little more PG, depending on who's listening. And I've seen this firsthand, and so have the others of us who are speaking this evening. And each of us in our own way shared the importance of keeping God first, putting God first, which in a practical sense means giving God, let's say, the first part of your day. So in the first 15 minutes of your day, let's say, or even 10 minutes, you do not look at your phone and read your email or check your social media. Maybe your phone's even off or in airplane mode or whatever, so that it can't distract you at all or interfere with you with whatever waves it's giving off. That's another side track we could go on, is not sleeping with a device in your room and having it somewhere else and finding another form of alarm to wake you up in the morning. That's something that I'm thinking about these days. Giving God the first of your day, which is really helping you have a good start to your day. Our first initial, maybe ego-focused, selfish thought is, why would I waste the best part of my day doing something like that? What you don't realize is that it actually helps you have a better day. Like putting gas in the tank before you drive versus just driving right away and then realizing later on there isn't enough gas in the tank to make it to the next station. I think you know what I mean. So, whether it's through prayer, through some sort of active devotion, meditation, reading, listening to some sort of uplifting, inspiring, God-centered music, all of these things help shift that perspective to keep God first, which starts the day off right. If you don't believe me, try it the other way and see how that goes for you. And how you will eventually burn out or lose a sense of purpose or get depressed or get stuck in fear or... yeah, I think I said most of the main things. Starting the day off that way allows God in me to be more present, which will have a much more impactful result for the rest of my day. Because then I refocus on things like living in love, living in joy, living in peace, living in gratitude, having patience, having self-control, being kind, being good to others. All of this starts in the morning with God. That's where it all begins. That's just a small example of how we start our day. But we were talking, and I was talking about how it's detrimental, and it will lead to a certain sort of destruction in our lives if we do not put God first in our choices of who we spend our time with, of what we spend our time doing, of what we eat, of how we discipline ourselves daily or don't discipline ourselves, what kind of habits we build in our lives. I learned very quickly what happens when you don't put God first in your life. Life falls apart. As it should. Because life wasn't meant to be lived on my terms, alone. It's a partnership with God. And if God is in it, it's going to succeed. If God's not in it, it's going to fail. Or there's going to be some sort of pride coming before a fall moment, where you learn once again what it is to trust and surrender and let go of the ego and let go of the self-will to the higher will, to let go of the smaller ego will, limited thinking will. Yeah. And we didn't share about this tonight, but I'm thinking about it now. Alignment. It's become more of a buzzword these days. When we bring our day and our lives into alignment with God, our lives just go a lot better overall. With God as our partner in life. When we are looking toward a romantic partner in our lives, does it not also make sense to move towards a certain alignment with that partner? This is another way that I interpret the scripture that says, do not be yoked together with unbelievers, for what do light and dark have in common? Righteousness with unrighteousness, which is essentially saying there's no alignment, there's disharmony, confusion, chaos, there's no balance. How can you be connected with somebody, attached with somebody, engaging in a mission together with somebody, like the oxen who are yoked together, carrying out a shared mission together? How can you do that if both of the ones being yoked together are not in alignment, have different missions in mind, believe different things, value different things, see the world in different ways, have different views spiritually. These are some deep, deep things where if there's no alignment, it is really going to mess with your partnership, with your relationship, and how successful it's going to be. It would be like two oxen or two horses. We'll modernize it a bit. Attached together. Okay, let's modernize it a little more. Funny version. You're going skiing. You have two skis, one on each leg. You start going down the hill. Your crotch, for lack of better words, is the yoke that binds your legs together. One ski starts to go one way, and the other ski starts to go the other way. What happens? It starts to get very uncomfortable, very painful, very unpleasant. What do you start doing with all of your might? Finding a way to get your skis back into alignment with one another. But if you can't do that, you're going to rip your legs apart, and it's going to hurt like hell. And if your legs don't get ripped apart, you're going to rip your groin apart. That is not a pleasant place to be in. And so it is when we're connecting with others. It's like we're each a leg. And the connecting aspect is our shared mission, inspired by God for our lives. And if it's not a shared mission, which means our skis are pointing in different directions, if it's shared and we're in alignment, our skis are in harmony with one another and we're having a really good time going down that mountain. But if the skis are going in different directions, we're going to have a hell of a time going down that mountain. It's going to be the worst experience ever. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to connecting with other people who are not in alignment with you. This has to be one of the most important things of life to understand. Where if you bind yourself to somebody who is not in alignment with you, it's going to be difficult. Because one ski is going to start veering off in one direction while you want to keep going in the other direction. Maybe you'll feel like you need to start turning in their direction so that you can go down the hill more easily. But you're resenting this. It doesn't feel right. Why do I have to turn my ski for you? Why can't we just align our skis together like we initially talked about? There's a lot to unpack in this metaphor, which is great. I like it. I like it when you can use an example like that and there's so many levels and layers of wisdom to be learned from that. So I'll just leave it at that for now. I think that's good. Coming into alignment every day. Just like before you play an instrument, you tune it. You bring those notes into alignment with one another so that there is what? Harmony. So that when you play chords, they don't sound horrible. They don't make you want to run away from that instrument They make you want to run away from that instrument when they sound like that. To put the instrument back down, to start over again and tune the instrument. That's what it's like when we get up in the morning and we don't tune ourselves. We just go straight into the day and start playing that instrument. We wonder why everything sounds out of tune. Why we can't seem to make a song sound nice, even though we know how to play it, but it doesn't sound right. We're putting our fingers in the right places to play that chord, but it doesn't sound right. It's because we're not in tune. We forgot to tune ourselves before we started playing. If we are here to really live our lives, as Jesus said, to play, to be creative, to enjoy this place, don't you think it would be wise to get in tune before playing? And on this earth, the play happens during the day when we're awake. And I suppose that as we sleep, there is another form of play that goes on, which is an interesting topic in itself. Whatever dimension we're in when we're playing there. But here, on this earth, when we play during the day, it's good to start off the day by getting in tune, by getting in alignment, which means maybe remembering those things that you knew the day before, reminding yourself of those important key core things, core truths, core promises, core affirmations. You remind yourself of these things and you start your day off that way, getting yourself in tune so that as you go about your day, you are making a pleasant sound to those around you, which essentially means what you are expressing during the day through the words you speak and your behaviors and your actions. They're pleasing. They're attractive. Just like a beautiful song is attractive. And you want to listen to it. And you want to hear it played again and again and again. So it is when we're in tune. And we play that song that we've known from before time began. The song we know so well. Which consists largely in just being who we are. That is our music. That is our song. Being who we are. But how do we be who we are if we don't know who we are? Well, that's what happens in the morning when you get in tune and you remember who you are and why you're here. You remember where you came from and where you're going to, and you remember your mission, your purpose, your call. You come back into alignment, back into harmony, back into balance, back into peace, back into oneness, back in phase with the ultimate frequency, the frequency of God, of course. The frequency of love, joy, peace, gratitude. That's coming into alignment. That's setting yourself up every day to bring heaven to earth. Not only in your own life, but in the lives of those who get around you, during the day. And especially if you are in a relationship with somebody. You both start your day off with God. Putting God first. Remembering who you are together as one. Remembering why you're here, what your purpose and your mission is while you're here and for this particular day.